So Paul, if I'm looking to design and build a new house, what's the process? How does it work? What does it look like?
It's a good question. I'm often asked that question of people that say, I've not worked with an architect, I've not built a house before, what is the process? So irrespective of who's designing the building, whether you've gone straight to a builder, you can break the process into 3 stages. It's designing the building, documenting the building, and the construction of the building. So design is coming up with a concept, coming up with ideas, viewing the site to see what the site has to offer, helping the client with a brief, coming up with what they want in the house, and then turning that into a design. That involves a lot of sketching, a lot of meetings with clients to sort of go over what they're wanting, showing you what they're doing. Are they on board with this? And then that culminates in an approval from the local council, which is commonly called a development approval, right? When you've got the development approval, the second stage is what I call contract documentation, or it's documenting the project to be built on site. So that involves lots of drawing, lots of research for the drawings, and measured drawings, schedules, researching materials, meeting with the clients and going over working with them on the development of the design, and then producing a set of drawings that the builder can then price the job and then work from those drawings. But there's a lot of research that goes in there. So some of our projects, there might be 50 sheets of drawings, but there's also a lot that goes into that, a lot of man hours that go into that, into those drawings. But the research behind that is also considerable. But what that means is when you get to site, that things have been selected, things have been worked out, and things have been selected. So the builder can then price the work accurately and build it accurately. So then the third stage is selecting a builder and then building the project. So typically there's a contract between a client and a builder, and typically if an architect's involved, they're the contract administrator named in the contract. And the contract administration means inspecting the work, that it's been built the way we want it built, so I would speak to the builder. If I'm doing the contract administration, I would speak to the builder most days, probably have a scheduled meeting with the builder once a week, and I would be inspecting the work. So some of the inspections, some of the things that you see, there's just experience that you see. For example, I'm looking at things like, is the insulation as specified? There's different types of insulation. It looks a bit the same, but they've got different R values. Roof sheeting has 2 base metal thicknesses, 0.42, 0.48 typically. It's printed on the sheet. So that's one of the things I'll look for, that they've got the right sheet. So an architect's a professional. I'm trained to do this, and it takes that away from the client. The client doesn't have to do that area. This is my area of expertise.
And so what have you found happens, or what have you seen if the architect isn't involved through the whole process, through stage 1, the concept, stage 2, the design, documentation, and stage 3, the contract administration and working with the builder? If the architect isn't involved in all 3, what can happen to the client, or what can happen to the project? Another good question.
Look, maybe we talk about why you should use an architect. And again, I'm an architect, so I'm a little biased, but I think an architect's a trained professional in all those areas. So, an architect is trained as a designer, and they take that away they take a lot of that stress away from the client. So you take a brief from the client and you design a bespoke house for the client. During the documentation, there's a lot of research that goes in, and we work with the client on all of those selections. But again, as I've said, if they're not selected, then there are issues on site. If you haven't selected all the materials and finishes and things like taps and door handles, you don't want to be doing that. You don't want to call from the builder saying, what door handle do you want, and then have to run around and find a door handle, or where do you want your PowerPoints. That all should be done during the contract documentation stage. That's where you get a lot of stress to the client, and also there's no harmony, there's no continuity in the design. You should be selecting all those things together to go together, and you know that's stressful to have to do it at the last minute.